How do dialogues about the political evolution of the European Union, specifically in response to the issues it confronts, such as migration, affect national identities and affinities towards secularism?
Well, I think that the difficulty is that the relationship between religion, state and law is already, in all countries, almost quite a sensitive issue. And the real problem here is it is mixed with issues of migration. And part of the migration debate that we're having now in Europe is slightly, dishonest is too strong a term, but it's deliberately not mentioning that much of the reason that people are fearful of migration is that they fear the consequences of changing religious demography, and they have slightly they look at the experience of migration and religious change in Europe to date as having been problematic. That Europe had a particular way of dealing with religion that was quite delicate, worked out over a long time, at the cost often of a lot of conflict, and they're scared that will be disturbed. And they also see, I suppose, that many of the countries where producing many of the refugees have religious conflict or very politically dominant forms of religion, and they worry that kind of conflict or that very politically uncompromising religion will come to play a bigger role in European societies, and they worry about that. On the other hand, as I mentioned, Europe has a long history of colonialism, arrogance, racism, so that mixed in makes quite a toxic brew.
Is there a way for European societies to become more inclusive, especially of Muslim citizens and immigrants, without necessarily becoming more secular?
Well, I think this is probably a case of where the law has a limited role. Normally, you see, it's very rare, in fact, for people to win their cases under Article 9 in Strasbourg. Religion is largely a private right under the European Convention. It does mean that you can have some protection at work and things like that, and European law, EU law, provides protection for that. But maybe it may be a question of social engagement and political engagement rather than a legal question. It's interesting that under most of the surveys that have been done, French Muslims identify more strongly with their country rather than their religion, much more than Muslims in Germany or Britain. And in France there is quite a strong, like in America, strong tradition of citizenship, and that is a national identity based in citizenship. So liberty, equality, fraternity, the republic, they're very big things. So it may be that by a stronger sense of what potential new citizens have to assimilate into.
So how do you think countries can prevent the promotion of secularism from ostracizing minorities and inciting counter-religions?
Yeah. Well, part of it is by taking secularism seriously, both as it impinges on the demands made of culturally entrenched Christian religions and the minorities. Secularism cannot be, and this is the danger of parties like the National Front in France, it cannot be a stick to beat immigrants or migrants or minorities with. It also makes we need to be clear to show how secularism affects all religions, and also give a positive version of it. It's about the idea of cooperation, of sharing particular institutions. Now, France's tradition of secularism and strong citizenship has been quite criticised, but as I mentioned, some of the statistics show it actually has a stronger integrative effect. And the other approaches, such as Britain had a more laissez-faire, multicultural approach, is viewed in Britain as a gross failure and is viewed in the Netherlands as a failure. So it's not clear that the other options are actually work any better. And the danger often with them is we don't want to fetishize one part of people's identity. People's religious identity is very important to them, but there are also many other identities. People can have a racial identity, their gender identity, they might be a tennis player, they might be a student, a lawyer, a doctor. All these things, we don't want to, the danger with communitaristic approaches, which sees and phrases like the Muslim community. There is no Muslim community. There are Muslims who are part of the community and who have very different national backgrounds, very different religious views. Some are very liberal, some are not very liberal. So we need to avoid. I think that avoiding communitarism has the benefit of first not abandoning those who may be mistreated within religious minority communities, such as women or gay people, not abandoning them and not compromising on their rights, but also giving a stronger sense of a community in which is diverse makeup in religious and other terms, which everyone can take part.